Alright, so we're checking out your character's face and the rest of the skull today. So just, right off the bat, you've done a really good job making sure that your geometry is correct here. Okay, so you've got your proper edge loops going around the mouth and the eyes, and you've got plenty to work with here on the nose as well. And everything's flowing pretty smoothly, so again, you've done a really good job on this. So give yourself a pat on the back. But there are things that we'll be working on today to improve this and just fix it up a little bit, because there are just a couple of issues that we'll need to address before moving on, okay? So, first thing I'm going to take a look at is, just kind of an edge flow issue, alright? So we've got this loop coming around, okay? And you can kind of see where, if we take a look at the eyebrow area here and how it comes along. It comes over here and then it just kind of changes direction, goes down this way on the face and wraps around this mouth area, before coming back up over here to the brow, okay? Then the next one, right here, the next edge loop out from the face or back from the face, however you want to look at it. This next one right here is coming around, and it's mirroring the one we just looked at. It's just coming around down below the mouth there, around the eye sockets, and then we get to right here, and it kind of splits directions at this point. Alright, so we've got on the one hand, we've got it kind of coming off this way, and then on the other hand, it's going up over here. Alright, so we don't really want that. We want everything to kind of continue in this nice sort of looping fashion, alright? So it kind of messes with our edge flow a little bit, okay? So, what can we do? Because, we still want to have some definition in this area, of course, but we don't really want to use the same line for it. Whoops, just moved the head over a little bit, excuse me there. So, there's a couple things we can do. We can either get rid of this line completely, if we want to, alright? Or instead of bringing it down here into this other edge loop, okay, connecting it to this other edge loop, we can create a new edge loop for it, okay? That'll come in between here. Either of those options are going to involve moving around geometry. So there's going to be some shuffle that's happening here. So just so I'm totally clear here, the reason that we can't do this kind of split off and go this way and split off and go that way kind of thing is the fact that if we go to vertex mode here, you can see, you've done a good job with this, having this vertex right here, of keeping your geometry on the one side quadded, or square, four-sided anyways. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sides here. But over here, on the other side, this polygon now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. Alright, so 5-sided polygons are not our friends. And the reason that is because, when our boss comes in later and says, hey, I really like that, and I want to add this cool forehead thing, so go ahead and put that in there. You're going to come up to your insert edge loop tool and start clicking on things and adding things, and it's gonna stop as soon as it comes across this 5-sided polygon. It's gonna be like, I don't know which way you want me to go. I don't know how to get around this thing, alright? So, it's gonna cause you a lot of problems later on during the modeling process if you have too many of these several-sided polygons. And also, equally, you could say, oh, well, you know, I'll just grab that vertex, I'll take that thing out. And now, look, 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Problem here is that now we've got a triangle here, alright, which will have the exact same effect as the 5-sided polygon. So when you're trying to use your tools to work with this area or other areas around your model that happen to intersect with this triangle, you know, your tool's just going to stop there and be like, I don't know what to do. So it's just one of those things about edge flow and keeping it organized and smooth. So I think what we'll do, I'm going to take the easy route here, and I'll just get rid of this, okay, this that's coming across here, so that we have one less edge loop to deal with, alright? If you wanted to add more detail instead to this head area, we could instead add a new edge loop, alright? And actually we can still do that after we get rid of this, alright? So let's go ahead and get rid of this. I'm just in edge mode here. I'm grabbing all these edges, woohoo, all the way along till I get to the other side where this kind of corner thing happens, alright? And I'm just gonna go ahead and delete those. Now, it's very important that you don't just grab a bunch of edges and hit the delete key, because if you do that, it's gonna leave. You're gonna see the edges have been deleted, but you know, it hasn't smoothed out, and that's because all the vertices that were attached to those edges have been left behind. So now you have a even more multiple-sided polygons than you started with, so that's bad. So make sure if you're grabbing edges like this, you always come up to the Edit Mesh tool and you use Delete Edge / Vertex. That will delete the edges, but it will also delete any vertices that were associated with those edges, okay? So we got rid of that, and you know, now we've got kind of this really flat forehead space going on. So you know, this is just an issue of coming in. I'm going to come up here and change my shading to X-ray so I can kind of see what I'm doing a little better. But you know, this is just a moment, you know, since we've changed our geometry a little dramatically there, we can just come in here and start reshaping this to, to kind of make up for that change. I come into the orthographic views here to do a lot of these kinds of changes, and you know, the reason I do that is because it allows me to just grab vertices in marquee, select them, and move them around, and know that when I do this, I'm only moving them in 2 directions. I'm moving them in Y, and I'm moving them in Z, without affecting the X direction. If I grab things in here, you know, I might grab this and move them around and get something other than what I'm looking for, okay? So it's good to just come in here and kind of adjust things from one perspective at a time, alright? So I'm going to round this out a little bit. Doesn't have to be fantastic right now, because we're, you know, just looking at it from one side at the moment. And then, you know, generally once you've kind of adjusted things from one direction, you can take a look at and see if you've done any damage in another direction, alright? So you could, for example, grab these guys here and just scale them in to kind of adjust just these. Or scale them out, you know, or just move them wherever they need to be moved, alright, just like that. Okay, so you can kind of round things out by doing that. Just look at it one way, make it nice and round, make all your curves look nice and smooth, and then look at it from another direction, make sure the curves look nice and smooth from that direction, then look at it in your perspective mode. Does it look nice no matter where I go here? And if it does, then you're golden. So, you know, another issue that we kind of created there was a spacing issue, because we've got kind of these long, tall faces here, and then it changes to these little, teeny tiny short ones pretty quickly. So in that kind of situation, you may want to move a lot of things. You may want to even, you know, move these down. I know I just moved those up, but hey, you know, modeling is kind of one of those processes where you just find what's going to look the best, alright? Just by coming at it with a plan, and if it's not perfect, then you can just readjust it. If you decide you want something different later, or more likely your art director decides that they want something different later, you just leave yourself these pathways that make things easy to adjust. So, so you can see now we've got this nice smooth curve. We've adjusted our spacing a little bit just by moving some of these forward, okay? And so now we've got something kind of smooth, alright? And you know, it looks alright from this direction as well. Now, you know, one thing I will say about, you know, looking at it from the front here, we've got something pretty smooth going on here, okay? Up here, it's kind of turning a little blocky, alright? So kind of in the center here, it's pretty flat along this edge, and then it's rounding out, okay? So it's kind of looking more like a shape, like a rounded square, if we look at this loop. So for our skull, you know, we'll actually want a much rounder shape to it, okay? So, you know, again up here too, you can see that that shape is continuing where it's kind of straight up and down here, and then a rounded area on the edge here, and then it's pretty flat on the top as well. So this guy, you know, this guy would be pretty good at balancing books on his head, but you know, if you try that, you'll see it's not so easy. So most of us have much rounder skulls. So you might want to take some of these things, alright, and just grab them and pull them up a little to give it more of a rounded curve, alright? And you know, I'm just grabbing things all the way along the skull from front to back at the top there, okay? I'm just using my X-ray mode so that I can kind of see what I'm doing a little bit. Now, you know, every time I move things like that, you know, my lines are probably going to get a little out of whack, so you'll have to come back in when you're moving things around and just grab, if you can, just grab individual vertices. Sorry, my mouse is being a little crazy today. And just move them in the line in such a way that you're getting these nice shapes, okay? Alright, so that's kind of rounded out the top of our head from the front, at least, okay, a little bit, and improved our edge flow a lot there. So another thing that we'll work on right now, while we're in this kind of face area, is the fact that if we take a look here, I'm going to click off for a second so you can really see the contour. We've got this pretty smooth shape happening here, But right here at the edge of the face, we've got this very sharp line. You can see the separation here with the light face color and, you know, this dark edge along there. So it's, you know, a little too stark of an edge for an organic object like a face. Alright, faces are pretty round, pretty smooth. You know, even areas that have a lot of features like your eyelids and your nose are gonna have some soft qualities, some softness to them. Just you know, a property of skin. So we're gonna round this out on the edge here to kind of counteract that sharp shape that we're getting. All right, and then you know, if you kind of look at it from this angle, you can kind of see we've got it coming across here pretty flat. This sharp angle here where it's turning, then it's kind of dipping in just a little bit, and before it's coming out again over here more towards the back of the head. All right, so you know, we're gonna improve that shape a little bit right now. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, you know, kind of take a look at my silhouette from the front here. You know, am I happy with the silhouette? Am I happy with the outline that I've got here? And I'd say this is pretty good. This is a pretty good outline. All right, you've got the shape that you kind of want on the outside here. All right. Now the next thing we kind of have to ask ourselves is, are my edge loops that are further in? Okay, so you know, here's our outer line, the next one in, and the next one in, and the next one in. Are those following those nice curves that I've kind of established for my outline? And you know, it's following pretty well up here, and then right here kind of gets away from us a little bit, and then right here it really does get kind of just flat and vertical. So let's kind of move things around a little bit here. We're gonna just go to vertex mode, or not. It's wanting to grab the camera. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna come over here and move the camera. Alright, move the camera out of the way first before you attempt anything. Alright, and we'll go to vertex mode. And I'm gonna start with this because this is pretty far out, and it's kind of making this area a little bit difficult to work with. So I'm just gonna move those in for now. You know, and we don't have to keep things there. We can move them back out if we want to, or do whatever we want with them. But for now, I'm just gonna move it in a little bit so that I can kind of see a little better what's going on with my shapes out here. All right. So I'm just going to start grabbing verts here, and I can use my scale tool to move these outwards on both sides at the same time. Just my move tool to move them up if I would like to. All right. And you'll kind of start to see the shape forming as you're doing this sort of thing. All right, just moving it out. And these aren't huge changes, all right? I mean, I'm not like going crazy with my tools here. I'm not pulling stuff up dramatically or anything. You know, these are small changes, but each one really matters when it comes to the final look of your model, okay? So it's really important to take the time to make these really small adjustments, okay? It's really going to smooth out your model. So once I'm kind of happy with one edge loop and the way it looks, I'm like, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. I can just come in one further in, all right, and start dealing with those edge loops. and say, you know, where do I want this one to be? Probably want it to be over here a little more. And this one is, you know, pretty far in. Maybe I'll move it out a little bit. I'm just going along this edge and adjusting things. Now, you know, once you do this kind of thing, you might look at it from the front and be like, oh, great, now it looks great. Looks great from the front. And you may be surprised when you turn it to the side, okay? So when you look at it from the side, it might not look quite as good as you thought it looked before. So make sure that you do take the time to look at things from the side as well. And make sure, you know, hey, when I moved all that stuff around, did I make anything really crazy? Because sometimes your edges on the side here as well will get a little out of line with one another, alright? So, like this guy right here, might want to move. Or maybe that one. Okay. So, you can see we've got a nice, a smoother shape happening here now. What I would do is probably bring these in a little bit and over, okay? And also on the corner here, if I can stop grabbing the camera. On the corner here, I would bring these in as well, alright? Because these are going to kind of mirror the shape that we've got going on up here, right? This nice smooth curve that we've got going on. You know, we'll want that in the brows as well. Okay, nice smooth curve. So just by bringing those kinds of things in and allowing them to follow the curves that we've established on the rest of the skull, we're really going to be improving our shaping in the long run there, okay? Just smoothing out the base. Might come down here to the mouth area and maybe just move those up a little. Or alternatively, I might move these down a little just to improve edge flow along that line. Alright? That's kind of a minor thing. And then, you know, here as well, we want to keep our edge flow smooth. We've got kind of this flat sort of line going on here, and then another flat area coming up into the nose. So, ideally, we'll want to round that kind of stuff out as much as we possibly can. Round that out even. And really, these are all quite close to one another. You can see on the one side here, we've got these longer, larger faces. And we've got these little tiny ones, some more little tiny ones, and then some more pretty big ones. So, you know, this is something that I would come in and adjust for spacing. Alright? The less the giant flat areas that we have, the better it's going to look in the end, okay? This is just kind of an eyeballing thing. I would probably pull these in as well. And of course, you know, you can't just grab a whole bunch and just pull them in and expect it to automatically be perfect. You know, it's gonna mess with a lot of the lines that you've established, alright? So, for example, down here I've got, you know, this jagged, zigzaggy line now where I didn't before. Okay, so you'll want to go in on an individual basis as well after you kind of move a whole bunch of things at once and adjust based on kind of the whole picture. So this, this one I might move up a little just to give it some space away from its neighbor there. And of course, if I move that up, I'm going to have to move the next one over up as well to keep things smooth, alright? So it's just a process, of going in, grabbing individual vertices and adjusting them to really try to find those nice smooth shapes and good spacing. So you can see that the spacing has improved quite a bit here, alright? And you'll want to go in closer on these kind of things too, and just mess with things in there. But we won't really go into that kind of stuff right now. So that's going to improve your edge flow on your face a little bit. Remember to look at these things from the side as well and kind of deal with this cheek structure, alright? Kind of should sort of swoop in for the eye socket, alright? And then kind of swoop back out in this direction for the cheek and then come back in this way around the mouth, alright? So this I'm going to move up just to keep that flow nice and smooth, alright? And some of these things, I might move forward as well to really get that cheek structure in there, okay? That cheekbone. Things can get a little squished right here, and that's because we're looking at this from the side. So while we're looking at these faces pretty much straight on from this angle, these faces in here we're kind of looking at from the side, alright? So it might look a little crowded in here, but that's just because we're not looking at these guys from straight on, okay? So that's one area where, you'll want to watch your spacing a little bit. Your spacing can get kind of tricky because you're not necessarily just going to grab things and say, oh, well, here's the center between these two, so good spacing. No. Just be aware when you're doing this kind of thing of, is this face meant to face basically out that way? Is it facing me? Is it kind of facing in between some other area? So watch out for that when you're dealing with spacing. All right. If you do have a lot of faces that are facing pretty much the same way and just facing directly towards the camera that you're looking through right now, then you can kind of do that. Hey, this is the space halfway between these other two guys over here, so that's where I should put things. That works for those scenarios, alright? And over here it'll get a little more tricky, and along the edges here as well, okay? So we got our cheekbone looking a little bit smoother, a little bit better, and our eye socket here as well is not quite so stark. Alright, still a little bit sharp around the mouth area here. You know, we can deal with this a couple different ways. We can either bring the mouth inwards a bit, or we can bring this out a bit, okay? I'd say for this one, I'd probably bring the mouth in just a little bit, okay? So I'd grab things in this general area. Now, because I marquee selected all that stuff, you know, I've almost certainly selected a whole bunch of vertices on the back of the model as well, okay? So make sure you're aware of that and deselect anything that you might have selected by mistake. Alright? You can watch this move tool over here to kind of know when you've managed to deselect everything, because it's gonna, instead of being in the center here, it's gonna come up and be in the center of your selection. Alright, so I'll click on that last one. It jumps up over to here. So now we know we have pretty much what we want, and no extra stuff coming along for the ride. Don't forget these guys on the inside here. Sometimes you can miss those. Oops, there's some extra stuff coming along for the ride. So with these guys right here, this, and this. Alright, so now we have what we want. We can just use our scale tool. We can pull that in just a little bit. Doesn't have to be too crazy, alright? And that also gives us the freedom to pull this next edge loop in a little, alright? We can pull those out a little. And so you can kind of see, you know, this shape is nice and round. And it's giving us a little more room to work with along the side here, making this not such a sharp transition between the front of the face and the side of the face, okay? This here is going to help too when we work with the chin, because you can see here as well where it's kind of going in this nice curve, and then it's just suddenly starting upwards, alright, in a not so smooth way. So you might bring something like that out and upwards so that it's more in line with this loop, okay? And, you know, I definitely brought that out a little far, I think. But this can come, you know, this can come way up, and it's gonna round that chin area out quite a bit and keep it from being square. People just don't have a lot of square areas happening. So, you know, and we can come look at this from the side here as well, and start moving things around that way. Also, to keep things smooth. Smooth transitions. And we can, you know, kind of gradually, we can gradually take this downwards if we want into the neck area. So it doesn't have to go all the way back here. You can take it in a downward direction. But you just don't want too many flat areas and too many really dramatic direction changes. Should all be pretty gradual. So a lot of these right here need some help staying kind of in line with the curves that we've established. All right, they're all in pretty straight lines. So, you know, it's I'm making it a little messy here, but you know, you just kind of want to get things in general into the positions that you want them to be in, and then really just go in and take a closer look individually, you know, kind of vertex by vertex, and deal with your shapes. All right. And spacing. So, okay, I'm not going to mess with that all day, because, you know, you could mess with that all day, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to watch me do that. So, okay, let's kind of move into, you know, a different issue that we're having. That's going to be back here where the geometry is much the same as it was up on the front there of the brow before we fixed it. Okay, so, you know, this is like, hey, a piece of cake, we already did this once, so, you know, no problem, we'll just fix it again, right? So this time, what I'm going to do in this case is actually something slightly different, all right? I'm going to combine these two edges together into one edge, all right? So using my merge vertex tool, all right? So I'm going to come up here to edit mesh. I'm going to go to merge vertex tool, all right? And I'm going to grab my tool settings. It's this little button right here, okay? It looks like a little bullet point list and a wrench. So I can click on that. I got my tool settings. You know, alternatively, when you click on your tool, edit mesh, merge vertex tool, you could just click on this little box to the right, and then we'll also bring up your tool settings, okay? So my merge vertex tool doesn't have a lot going on in the settings. It's just merge to, and you can choose either target vertex or center. So when I do target vertex and I click and drag one vertex to another, the one I clicked on first will be dragged over and joined with the one that I let go of the mouse button on. All right, so the second one that I selected. And if I change this to center, I can click and drag. And instead of moving the first one I clicked to the second one, it's just kind of found the center ground between those two and joined them right there in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to make sure my tool is set to center for this one. This is going to minimize the moving around of stuff that I have to do. And I can just merge that one right there, okay? Oops. Well, right there, you know, either one of those is fine. So just come through here and start merging these up. Okay. So now I got all squares again. No more funny shape polygons. Or, oh, well, funny shape maybe, but they've all got the right number of edges, alright? We'll look at this from the side and start moving stuff around again. So, you know, for the skull we want to have, again, this nice pretty round shape, alright? So I'm gonna start moving my outlines a little bit to get the kind of outline I want for this. I'm gonna be moving things up and outwards a lot. So, you know, bear with me here. Let me moving stuff around. I'm going to start to adjust the angle also that things are kind of going at. Instead of straight up and down at this point, I'm going to start making things kind of flow that way. Alright. As we're curving around and transitioning into things flowing horizontally. Alright. I'm going to bring, a lot of this stuff up, actually, as well. Bring that right there. And right here, I'm going to kind of bring it in. Let's say, here's the neck starting here. I'm going to move that, or rotate that rather, a little bit as well as we're kind of coming into this curve, okay? And that one. Okay, so, now I've got this pretty nice round outline going on, okay? Everything's rounded. But on the inside, of course, things are not rounded. So they're still kind of how we left them before. So we'll just have to, based on this outline that we've made for ourselves to work off of, we can start moving things around and making them round. Okay? Just basing it on the outline that I've created for myself. Okay? I'm just following these contours to sort of decide where I want things to go. So, as I'm following this line, it's got a little bit of space between it and the next one out, alright? And there's also quite a bit of space between this line and the next one down, alright? When we start getting into this corner of the eye area. So we're going to kind of follow this area around and see kind of where it leads us and where some important shape changes are happening. So, right here, we get to about here, and then it gets a little weird. Okay? Because what we have right here is we've got this guy that's kind of coming in and stopping right there. Alright? It's a little bit of a tricky one. And then we have these that are following the contour, but these guys are following this contour quite closely, alright? Whereas these ones up here have got quite a bit of distance between them and the next edge loop. So, let's kind of look at this. Let's look at this and see how this actually looks. So up here, where we're dealing with it, it's got this sort of smooth quality. It's just coming around. And, here we've got a super sharp skull, okay, kind of thing going on, where it's just coming over here and the back of the head is almost flat, alright, and just changing direction suddenly. So, obviously we can kind of look at this and be like, I probably want this area to look a lot more like this one up here. So let's continue following those contours, these contours on the outside, but maybe not so closely. Just pull those guys back quite a bit. Just rein that in a little. And we'll pull this one up so that it's kind of following this, all right? Following this pattern that we've established at the top, you know, and our spacing, we can kind of figure out how we want things spaced out. Now, you know, admittedly, it's probably gonna look a little weird at first when we first start doing this, all right? But as we keep adjusting things, it's gonna get better. It's gonna really help our shape. And you may get into areas like this as well, where you're like, hey, you know, I want to move this back, but now it's on top of that one. Sometimes you just need to move things around to give yourself a little space to work with those contours at the beginning, all right? And then you can come back and readjust those guys later when you figure out where you really want them to go. So move that forward. Okay, so let's kind of look at it now and see if we're doing any better. Okay, we're doing a little better, but it's still kind of sharp, as you can see. All right, and of course we've got all kinds of zigzaggy lines inside of here. But you know, let's just kind of deal with the general shape first. All right, and then we'll deal with all this stuff. So, what gives? Why is it still sharp? You know, we adjusted it. It's nice and smooth this way. The problem is it looks great from this angle, but then when we take a look from this angle, it's the same thing where we've got this kind of really flat surface, all right? Pretty flat anyways. So we really need to bring a lot of these inwards from, you know, looking at it from this way, bring them inwards towards the center. Kind of brought them inwards from this direction, but now we need to bring them inwards from this direction as well. So I'm gonna grab a bunch of those. I seem to have grabbed something extra somewhere. So just Z back. Here we go. Grab those. Grab their counterparts on the other side here. I'm just going to use the scale tool and just bring them in the X direction. So bring them in. You know, and again, probably not going to look awesome at first, alright? There's going to be a lot of things that need moving. So I'm going to move it to, you know, probably right about there. I'm going to go to the next edge loop, which is now, you know, altogether too close to this one. Grab these guys on both sides. And I'm going to scooch those in too. Alright. Not quite as much. So you can see if I kind of look at this from the top now, we've got, you know, a smoother sort of feel going on. Alright. So those lines are not so stark anymore. But, you know, of course, you know, as soon as we moved all those things, a lot of things got a little out of whack here, all right? So that's just a matter of coming in and moving some more stuff around. Just a process. Start moving things up, following those contours. Nice thing is, once you've really established your contours from multiple angles, a lot of the guesswork gets taken out of it. Alright, once you kind of have your shape that you want, you can just kind of follow along with the guidelines that you've created on the outside here. And just start sort of following those. Just pay attention to trying to keep your curves relatively smooth. Don't let it get away from you too much. And just keep your spacing as even as you can. Alright? And you may move some things around and be, putting things in and thinking, oh yeah, I think it's probably good there. Then you'll move something else around and be like, it doesn't make that area look so good anymore. You can just readjust things until you're happy with where they're at and where they're going and how they're getting there. So you can see how, fairly quickly we can start seeing some better spacing, some better curves, and, better overall shape for your face and contours, alright? From any angle. It doesn't matter which way. The ultimate goal is it shouldn't matter which way I'm looking at this thing. It should look really nice, no matter what I'm looking at. So, just a couple more shaping things. Make sure that you look at this from the top as well. Right now it is a little square looking from the top. Alright, so I'd leave that to you to kind of use the techniques that we've talked about to sort of pull this shape into a rounder shape. Alright? Especially towards the back here. I wouldn't worry too much about the front because we rounded that out quite a bit. But the back is looking a little bit square. So you'll want to round that out, bring things in. From the side here as well, you may want to round this shape out just a little more. Just pull some of this center mass out, okay? Because again, from the top, it's looking a little blocky. Alright, you can see this is pretty flat, what we've got going on here when we look at it from the top. Alright, so just, be aware of that and adjust those things. Adjust this stuff too. Anytime you adjust things up here, you're going to be getting some little zigzaggy lines and other fun stuff going on down here. And the spacing as well, you want to pay attention just as much on the bottom to your spacing and your edge flow as you do on any other part. So two more things that we're going to go over. One is the nose. So you can see these faces on the nose here. They're really, really, really flat. Okay, if we look at that from the profile, there is just a little bit of a bump to the nose there. But because of how broad these shapes are from the front, it's not really smooth. It's pretty stark and blocky, okay? So, you know, we'll really need to bring that in and smooth it out. One thing you can do is just grab these faces, grab all those, and you can use your scale tool and you can pull them in. Just bring them in. And, you know, already you've got something that's a little rounder without really changing your shape of your nose too much, or the shape that you've kind of wanted your nose to show, the thickness and the width or anything like that. You've rounded it out at least, so it's not quite so stark. And you know, you can also, I would also recommend coming in here at the top of the nose at these vertices and bringing those in as well, because, you know, then we've got kind of some unusual stuff going on, so we could bring that in to improve the edge flow there. And if we're gonna bring that stuff in, we're gonna bring other stuff in too, of course. Whoops, make sure you grab the right vertices. There we go. Pull that in maybe a little bit. Or alternatively, you could grab these guys at the back here and pull them out a little. You know, anything that I pull out, though, I'm gonna have to go through further down as well and pull things out a bit there to kind of smooth out that shape. So, you know, this is just helping blend the nose into the face a little more and help it just kind of, you know, obviously a nose is a big shape change, so there are going to be some pretty stark lines involved with noses, but you still want things to feel a little bit smooth, okay? Or soft. I might even pull some of this stuff, you know, back a little bit as well, just to help soften the shape. Okay, and you know, when I did all that stuff, you know, there's some areas that need some attention too, that I've got some little zigzaggy stuff going on with. Alright, so, you know, look at it from the front. Should be kind of a gradual change for the nose, okay? Look at it from the side. Make sure you still like your profile from the side. And really, you know, it is pretty flat, so, you know, I would grab this stuff and move it back, okay? And maybe this other stuff too, and just move it back. So that's it for the nose. You know, that's gonna look a lot more smooth for you. The other thing that we're gonna look at is the eye socket. Okay, so, you know, right here, I can see pretty far into this guy's eye socket. So, you know, if we were looking at people and we could see that deep into their heads, that'd be a little unnerving. So let's go ahead and kind of deal with that issue. What I would do for this situation, you know, your eyes are pretty well placed at the moment, so you can either move your eyes up a little bit, but that's gonna cause problems over here, as you can see, with your eyes being poking through. And the other option is to grab this area, okay, the corner of your eye here, and this one, the other corner of your eye. And to go through and make sure you don't have anything extra selected, okay? Just those corner areas. And I do have extra stuff selected. So, you know, it can be a little tedious sometimes, making sure you can grab anything you didn't mean to, like I did. Okay. You can also try tackling it from a different angle. Alright, so now it looks like I've selected only what I wanted. And we can look at this in perspective mode here. And we can just pull this back a lot. Alright? It's gonna be a lot. So we'll just pull that back till it's, you know, almost, well, really just touching the eyeball, okay? Should be just touching the eye so that we can't see inside the head, alright? We don't want to see all that inside brains and guts and stuff. So of course, since we moved that back, we're going to have to move these other guys back as well, alright? Again, make sure you didn't grab anything extra that you didn't mean to. And start moving that. Again, you know, just has to move so that it's just touching the eye. Don't go crazy with it. Grab these as well. Pull it back. And it's gonna help with your eye, alright? You also might want to actually bring some of these up a bit. I'm just gonna grab the ones on the outside for now to save time. Normally you'd want to grab the inner eyelid bits as well, but I'd say, you know, bring this in a little further, okay? Pull these guys, let's see, vertex mode, please. Pull this out and up a little. I'll pull this up a little as well, just to round out that shape again. Round shapes, we love them. You know, and I'd also pull that down. And of course the one next to it. Right there. Pull that down. And you may get some pretty weird shapes at first, but you know, again, just start looking at things from multiple angles. Say, you know, where do I want this to be from this angle? Where do I want this to be from this angle? What if I look at it from over here? Do I still like it? Move it around. So just round out those shapes. You know, you'll get something a little bit like that. And this right here is pretty close to the one next to it. Alright, so I'd move that a little. I'd move this as well to round out the shape. I'd maybe move that out a little. And you can also take this nose area. You can move this back quite a bit, alright? And get some more free space to shape your nose. If you want. Add one of those little bumps even. So that's going to improve the shape of your eye a lot, and people aren't going to be staring into your guy's soul there, into his eye sockets. You know, same thing on the other side. You know, again, we've got kind of this thing where the eye, we can see right kind of through the socket. And I haven't been careful when I've been selecting these. I've just been grabbing them without checking what else I'm grabbing, so that's a no-no. But in the interest of time right now, just to kind of show you what I mean, we're just going a little fast. Just grabbing those, pull those in. So, you know, kind of look at your eye from every angle here and make sure that that eyelid is connecting with the eye, all right, in every scenario here. And then it's nice and round and shaped pretty, okay? So, you know, that's it for what we're gonna go over with this today. You know, just go ahead and start dealing with some of these shaping issues and work them out. And in the end, you should have something that looks something like this. All right, nice and smooth. You know, less dark lines, and you'll be good to go. So let me know if you have any questions about anything that we went over today. And thank you for watching, and happy modeling.